Hey, welcome to Life After Death. My name is Curtis Childs. In this show, we talk a lot about heaven, and we talk about how it is and the structures and the details of it. But you don't need us anymore. You do not need this show as a resource because you have all the information you could possibly need about heaven and what it's like and how it goes. And it's a lot closer than even the phone you're holding in your hand watching this on. Your body, the human body, and all the details of what's in it and how it interacts with itself and what it does, that is the structure of heaven. This is something that has been pointed at so much by ancient traditions around the world that there's a term for it. I'm going to teach you that term during the show. And the reason why this is good news, it's good that heaven is in the human form, is because the form of the human body is completely perfect for providing a way for every part that's in it to be useful to every other part. So in a group of human beings organized like the body, which is what you call heaven, every person can be useful to every other person, and usefulness carries within it the joy of heaven. I'm talking even like the specifics of how organs inside the body and the membranes and the parts, and it's all relevant to the experience of heaven. So let's figure out what the heck I'm talking about. But I already teased that I was going to teach you a new vocab word. I know you're on the edge of your seats for it. It's such a cool word that I don't even think I can pronounce it right. Have you ever heard of macranthropy? Macranthropy? This is from Wikipedia. Macranthropy is the allegorical portrayal of the universe as a giant anthropomorphic body, meaning like a human body. The various components of the universe are assigned to corresponding body parts. Macranthropy has made appearances in ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Mesopotamia, and ancient India, all the who's who of the ancient stuff. So people have had a sense that even though the universe doesn't look at all like a body, maybe there's this transcendent human form in everything. And Swedenborg would say that's because we have a baseline understanding that it is so, because that comes from God, who is humanity, who is human, and from which the universe happened. We get this basic vibe that's like, oh yeah, there's a human undercurrent to this. It's also right there in Christianity. This is from Paul. And I gotta say, I don't know Paul that well. Swedenborg is so focused on other parts of the Bible. He says there's some good stuff about Paul, doesn't have an internal sense. But right here, Paul is absolutely talking not just macranthropy, but that humanity in the form of the church/heaven can be one body. Maybe you've heard of it, the body of Christ. Here we go. He says, for as the body is one and has many members meaning a part of the body, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body. So what's the advantage of being in a body? We're talking about unity. We're all one, even though you got your elbows connected to the other part, but it's the same thing. It's all part of the same thing while maintaining its difference. If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? It's just like you have to make room for different kinds of people. And this is cool because it starts to get at the attitude that the human body demands. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you. Snobby eye. Nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. No. Much rather, those members of the body which seem to be weaker are necessary, and those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, on these we bestow greater honor. That's cool. God, I'll finish this quote, then I'm going to talk about why I think that's cool. God composed the body, having given greater honor to that part which lacks it, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. The human body model solves the eternal struggle of how we have different talents and stuff. Some of us are smarter than others. Some of us are more handsomer, and some of us are whatever. How is it we can really get into a place where we're all equal? The body shows you the way. You can have something that's like specialized. Yeah, let's say like the eye or the brain, without the down to earth, salt of the earth kind of parts, like the feet or the skull. None of that would work. Everything needs everything else completely. And when you're in the state of heaven, loves and values the contribution, and even thinks like, I would be nothing without you. Here, I may be the lungs, but without the legs, I'm nothing. We wouldn't even be able to go get any food. We would die. We all need each other all the way. That's cool, man. That seems to have this imprint of heaven in it. So there's this idea that all parts of creation are this one big body, and we are all part of this body, and it brings us together. That's around in all kinds of places, and it is all over the place in Swedenborg. He talks about this all the time. You can't go through the book Heaven and Hell, which we're going through, without running into the human form over and over and over and over and over. And this is a cool quote about that from Heaven and Hell 63. We ourselves consist of countless different things, both overall and in our parts. Yeah, and Paul said that. Swedenborg really knew this, though. He was one of the things he was the best at, and he was really good at a lot of things, was anatomy. He had studied the human body like crazy and published on it. So it was probably amazing to him that all his knowledge of the body was so important to his knowledge of spirituality. We are made up overall of our limbs, organs, viscera, and in our parts, a series of nerves, fibers, blood vessels, made up of members within members, then, and parts within parts. And I don't think he knew about cells. Like, he would go down smaller to organelles and all that, but the logic holds up. Still, we do, of course, recognize that when we do anything, we do it as whole individuals. This is what heaven is like, too, under the Lord's guardianship and guidance. So not just that we're kind of like a body, but God leads heaven in the same way that a single person can be led. Section 2, why this design? If we're going to bank everything on this, if we're going to make people in this design, if we're going to make the entirety of heaven and the universe in this design, it better be an ingenious design. If you think about, who's that guy, Johnny Ive, the design stuff for Apple, and it's so good, it's got to be a good design. This had better be the best design. This better really win some awards for good design. So what's so good about this? We've learned some already. Let's dig into it more. And as we're talking about all these different things, how there's different parts of the body working together, translate that into, this is how human beings can work together with each other. Because that's ultimately the goal, is to have this pattern replicated everywhere. It's automatically replicated in the body, to an extent. You still got to try to stay healthy. But where it's not automatically replicated is with the human race. If we do that, if we start acting like that, then things get good. Then life gets better. Okay, this is Heaven and Hell, 64. The reason so many varied elements act as one in an individual is that there is nothing whatever there that does not contribute something to the common good and do something useful. That's the difference between a bunch of stuff in a bag and a body. It's not just that everything's together in one place. It's that everything is doing something for the common good or for everything else. The inclusive body serves its parts, and the parts serve the inclusive body, because the inclusive body is made up of parts, and the parts make up the inclusive body. So they provide for each other respectively. They focus on each other mutually. They are united in the kind of form that gives every single component a relationship to the inclusive entity and its well-being. This is what enables them to act as a unit. Is that not a description of love? Hey, I'm going to provide for you, and you're going to provide for me. I'm going to focus on, instead of focusing on my own ego and how being the greatest, I'm going to focus on you. I'm thinking about, that's what love is. When you know, oh, so you were thinking about me, I'm going to think about you, you're going to think about me, and we're going to be united in the kind of form that gives everyone here, nobody's left out, everyone a relationship to the inclusive entity and its well-being. Telling you, man, that sounds like love. If you want that form to be healthy, on the body level, for the physical body to be healthy and working well, all the parts have to be looking to that common good. If you have any part of the body, let's say a clump of cells that just ditches the whole body vision and just says, well, we're just going to grow. We're just going to grow ourselves. That's cancer. That destroys life. Same thing with heaven. For heaven to be healthy and to function well, everybody has to have this, hey, we're all in it together mindset. Swedenborg even writes that to be part of heaven, what makes you in heaven is if you serve some use. That's the criteria. You serve some use for the common good. If you don't do that, you can't stay, because then you're not concerned about the health of the whole, and they're just going to be harming the whole in a cancerous way. And it does sound a little bit like serve some use. Kind of sounds like the thing that, like the Empire from Star Wars, would be some imperial looking guys like, well, this one does not serve some use. Kick him from the body. But let's see what Swedenborg really means by that. This is Heaven and Hell 64. To serve some use, because aren't we just getting back to like, are you talented? Can you do something better than other people? Then you serve some use. To serve some use is to intend well to others for the sake of the common good. While not to serve some use is to intend well to others, not for the sake of the common good, but for the sake of oneself. This is the reason I'm doing this, and I'm in it for me. People who act in this latter fashion are people who love themselves above all, while people who act in the former fashion are the ones who love the Lord above all. Doesn't mean they don't love themselves, but they do not love themselves more than, they do not love their own welfare over the welfare of all. It's just like in companies. People are starting to wake up to the fact that if you're talented jerks will destroy your company. You can be really talented, but if you are mean and you don't work well with the group, ultimately it costs the company more because the damage that you do. Same thing with heaven. So to serve some use is to intend well to others for the sake of the common good. Not to serve some use is to intend well to others only for the sake of oneself. You could do a lot of stuff. Like, look at this. I built this road and I made this monument in heaven. But if it is only for the sake of self, if it is not with the intention to do well to others, that means you're not really serving a use. And if you're just giving what you can out of your, like, I just dig this one little ditch, I'm using very simplistic metaphors. The things they actually do in heaven are incredibly complex and amazing and way cooler than anything that's gone on in Silicon Valley or whatever. But I'm saying, if you do it with a good heart and you're doing it for the common good, you're in heaven. Yes, that's a great use that you're serving, and you'll continue to develop your ability to do that. And the reason why that's the criteria is that's the character of God. God is all about that. Let's serve the whole. God is actually the only one anywhere who completely desires that everybody be fully happy and thriving. That is God from the bottom of his heart wants that, and nobody else really wants that to the same extent. But angels look to God and say, hey, can you fill me up with that? This is Heaven and Hell 64. This is why people in heaven act in unison, not from themselves, but from the Lord. Heaven is when we're all looking toward, hey, coach, what do I do next? They, in fact, focus on him as the unique source of all and on his kingdom as the commonwealth that is to be cared for. This is the meaning of the Lord's words. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything will be given you in addition. To seek his righteousness is to seek his good. the good of the Lord is not, oh, does the Lord have everything the Lord needs? Because the Lord doesn't need food. The Lord doesn't need praise. The Lord doesn't need adoration. What the Lord needs is for everybody to be happy and safe. We are, it's a cliche, but we're children of God. God is not happy unless the children are happy. That's actually all God cares about. Seek first the kingdom of God. I get like a little sort of goosebumps when I see that quote, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, because in the beginning of Secrets of Heaven, which was Swedenborg's first book, he has that, unless I'm gravely mistaken, but he has that written there. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and you will gain all. I think it's also a cool thing because when we talk about, oh, you've got to love the common good rather than just love your own selfish interests. People wait, aren't we supposed to take care of ourselves? What about, don't I need to be happy? Don't I need to be well fed and loved? And that we're not trying to take that away. Seek first the kingdom of God. Seek first this desire that everyone should be most profoundly and fully happy. And oh yeah, you'll get all that stuff. What? God's not going to give that to you? He doesn't know that you need that? So supporting the common good, being all about the common good, makes it so that everyone thrives. Because even the sort of cancer mindset that's just about me, and cancer ends up killing itself. Kills the body it's in, and then it dies. So people who would just want to selfishly pull heavenly resources to themselves would end up destroying heaven and destroying everyone. So that is a reason why there's got to be boundaries on heaven, just like there's boundaries on the body that protect you from viruses and bacteria. And you can say, hey, if you're not going to do the heaven thing, you can't be in heaven. We're going to make another spot for you that's as good as it can be when you're not doing the heaven thing, but you can't be in here. So if you're determined to act selfishly, you can't be in heaven. Plus, you can't, as we saw last episode, you can't breathe in heaven. It would feel terrible to be in the middle of mutual love when you're not all about mutual love. So you can't come in heaven because you're gonna destroy everything, including yourself. So let's not do that. But everyone who's in heaven, it's a perfect environment for you because, you get to do the love thing. You get to spend your days making sure that everyone is okay. And even everyone who's outside of heaven. I mean, the people who are in heaven constantly are trying to make life better for people on earth, make life better for people that have chosen hell. No, it's not like, well, we love each other and that's all. Divine love is the intent that everyone should be most fully and profoundly happy. And that's the mission of heaven. That extends to everyone who's ever existed. We want you to be as happy as you'll let us make you. Section 3, getting specific. You might think that we're just talking about the human body so we can make vague, toothless metaphors about, it's sort of like hands and sort of like eyes. Actually, every detail, like you can comb over the human body with an anatomist eye like Swedenborg did, and like we can do to such a greater extent now with all these microscopes and stuff, and every detail there ties in to this form of heaven thing. This is from Heaven L65. Since heaven in its entirety does reflect a single individual, don't forget, and is in fact the divine spiritual person in its greatest form and image. That's cool. The greatest, where in the universe is the greatest instance of the form of the God? Heaven is therefore differentiated into members and parts like a person, and these are given similar names. It's not, this is something that's blatantly in the culture of heaven. Angels know what member one community or another is in, and say that this community, those people over there, it's in the member of the province of the head. That this one is in the member or province of the chest. That one in the member or province of the genitals, and so on. Sorry, Jerry. You know what province you're in? The genitals. Genitals are kind of like, we have a sort of an immature culture where we can't talk about that. Swedenborg actually says that the organs of reproduction that allow for the creation of the human race and love between married partners, that actually is like angels of the highest heaven correspond to those. So you can still laugh at it, but it's like serious business. There's also the different levels of heaven represent broadly different parts of heaven. You probably thought, they're not using the map in this one. Where's that map? Don't they always have a map on the table? Well, they're not going to use it in this one, so I won't worry about it. Wrong! Because the layers of heaven line up with this description of the human body. In general, those angels that live in the third or innermost heaven correspond to or play the role of the head and the neck in a human being. These are angels that are most open to God, think about things in a very love-focused way, and so they are the thing that kind of steers heaven as a whole. In a human being, the torso down to the knees, that is what the second or middle heaven corresponds to. Broadly, they perform the same roles in there. And then Swedenborg says the elbows out and the knees to the feet correspond to the outermost heaven. So the outermost heaven is where you can get things done and work on the world around you. There is this lining up of those. And as Paul was saying, third or inmost heaven can't say, I don't need you, first heaven, because they can't do what the first heaven can do. And the first heaven can't say, I don't need you, third or innermost heaven, because they can't do what the innermost heaven can do. And none of these are doing it on their own. They're all doing it from the Lord, and they know that the Lord is love for for everyone in this entire diagram, even out into hells. So they all work together, but they absolutely know, oh yeah, I know you're in the head. Oh yeah, I know you're in the body. I know you're in the hand. It's a simple overview, but as we know from our own body, it's not as simple as there's three parts to the body: the head, the torso, and the feet. Everything is super complex. There's layers and layers of tissue and level of function in all parts of the body. And that holds up to the metaphor. So just like there are layers of the heavens themselves, and there are innermost things that do a certain function and outermost things, even if you just think about the kidney has an outermost layer on it that works like skin does. It has inner things that are doing that. All of those correspond to, in any given community, let's say you're in a community that's in a part of the body, there are within that grouping of angels, there are some people who are doing these deeper, more love-based things. There are people who are doing these outer, more truth-based and power-based things. And all of those have to work together in every instance. So the human form really is not just replicated on the grand scale, but every little bit of every community is functioning in that way. That the divine design is in the human form everywhere, because it's the way that love works the best together. I know that some of you are saying, why did you teach us all this stuff? Why did you tell us about the human form and how it scales in heaven? I didn't want to know. I know none of you really said this, but I'm trying to set up the next quote. You're saying, why teach that? It's not even that important. Oh, really? I can't believe you said that, because look what Swedenborg's about to say. This is Heaven Hell 67. We have presented these statements about heaven as the universal human because this is given us some of how important this concept is and what it can do for us. Without them as preface, there can be no comprehension whatever of the things about heaven that are to follow. And in this series, we're going through heaven and hell, so it would have been useless to go on if we skipped this episode. No clear concept of heaven can be gained either. No clear concept of the union of the Lord with heaven, or of the union of heaven with us on earth, of the inflow of the spiritual world into the natural world, and none whatever of correspondence, all of which must be discussed in sequence in the pages that now follow. This material has been presented first, then, to shed light on these matters. So that gives you a little insight into the importance of the concept of heaven in the human form that you might not, I don't feel like I realized it matters that much, but it sets your mind on alert. Like, okay, somehow this allows me to do all that. Like, lets you know how inflow between the spiritual and physical world works, correspondences, all these things somehow go back to this idea that heaven is human. And it happens on these different scales. I guess it's part of, like, this is how God relates to things, because things are the same in different scales. Like, for example, angels can know that one community of angels looks like a single person. They can actually see one community of angels presented as a human form, right? But they can't, no angel can see all of heaven as a single human being. This is Heaven Hell 62. Angels do not see heaven in a single overview in this kind of form, since the entire heaven does not lie within the scope of any angel's sight. You have to have an incredible divine processing power to get that. But since angels understand, like we're learning right now about this fractal system, what they see on the smaller scale is true on the biggest scale. They know it. Even if they can't perceive it directly, they can understand and be inspired by it. Swedenborg says in Heaven and Hell 62, therefore they say that the entire heaven looks like this in the Lord's sight, because the divine sees everything from the very center and summit. So there is order. If you're from the perspective of God, even though we can think of life as this crazy, chaotic thing, and the human race, are we even meant to get along? We're certainly not like one big family, let alone one person, one single body together. But to God, God can look at us and see, yep, this is how it all makes sense. And this is how I can lead you all. Like I can work and get us so in sync as such a good team that we can pursue a single goal together. This is going to work just fine. And this is how God can build a relationship with the entire human race at once, because we are all like a single person. This, like, it's there. The order is there. And if you're ever feeling like life is chaos or everything is scattered, just know it's human. It's a person. It's something you can connect with in your heart at the greatest level. And that's how God sees each of us individually, sees the whole thing. Humanity. Everything is human, and you are constantly walking around wearing the divine design on top of you at all times.